Welcome everybody to my 2023 Honda Civic Type R. Yes, this is the FL5 Civic Type R. In today's video, we're going to be covering my over 2,000 mile round trip effort to pick up my Civic Type R. We're going to share with you how I picked up the Civic Type R, where I got it from, and my first about 1,100 mile trip to Florida from New York in the new Civic Type R. I'll share with you guys what I like, what I don't, the new stuff, the old stuff, and everything in between. Now, for those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. Look forward to a ton of videos on this car. For those of you that have been here for a while, you know how long it's been since I've been looking to get one of these. I've effectively been trying to get one of these for about a year now. So after about, 6 to 8 months of negotiation, finally found one. We packed up the family, headed to Jacksonville Airport, parked the X5, and waited to board on the airplane. Then got on the airplane. This is my first airplane trip for my little daughter there. And headed to, yes, Atlantic Honda in Long Island, New York. Now, this is my first reaction of getting there before I even stepped foot inside the dealership. And obviously I was fairly smitten by the way the car looked. It looks a lot better in person. It just has a nice wide presence to it. And when I first saw it, I'm like, yes, thank God, I love the way it looks. The way I would describe it is subtle aggression. Well, and here it is, the beginning of the journey. The car had 10 miles in the odometer when I turned it on. I played around with the settings, and this is the dash that I love. It looks very similar to the S2000 dash that I love so much. And this is the beginning of a journey, boys and girls. So I drove it that night from Long Island through New York City into a house I own in the suburbs of New York. And I was so happy with the car. I couldn't stop taking pictures of it, as you can see here. It's just nonstop me taking pictures of it. I also coincided this trip with Thanksgiving. So we went and visited friends, family, got together, drank one of the best gins I've ever had. If you guys can find me a way to get that Arctic Blue gin, I'd be greatly appreciative. Anyway, had a blast driving all around Metro New York and New Jersey area. And the Civic Type R obviously is perfect for the situation and conditions that I had during Thanksgiving time in New York. After attending 2 Thanksgiving dinners, celebrations, and 2 other celebrations with friends, it was decided it was time to get going on our trip down to Florida from New York. So as we set off here down to Florida, it's about a 1,000 mile, almost 1,100 mile journey down there. And it's important to remember that this car is still in the braking period. So until basically the middle of this trip, I never went full throttle. So we're gonna experience that together here. It's also good to remember that this car is so practical. My wife and daughter are in the back. My daughter has a car seat. My wife had plenty of space, plenty of room, and it was quite lovely. We had lots of room for luggage. We had a cooler, and lots of space to spread out. Additionally, as everyone else has said, the front seats are perfect. A few other things that stood out were, of course, the perfect shifter. I mean, this is as good, if not better, than the previous generation Type R shifter. Outward visibility has also improved, which is a very welcome addition. And road noise, yeah, not the best, but a little bit better than previous generation. And, well, have a listen for yourself. For the front seat passengers, road noise, very minimized. For the rear seats, not the greatest, but kind of what you expect. Also demonstrating the greatness that is lane keep assists. And here you see Apple CarPlay screwing up. More on that later. The one thing I do need to admit to here is that I thought all of these technologies like lane keep assist, etc., were just not for me. They're kind of gimmicky. I was wrong. I am wrong, and lane keep assist is amazing. It really reduces driver fatigue, and when driving 1,100 miles, it's a lot. So it helps when the car helps you keep in the lane. It's got its limitations, but man, once you learn how to use it and kind of get some experience, it works wonders. I'll do a video on that in the future. One of the bigger negatives of the Type R as a long road trip car is the tiny thimble of a gas tank. Now, for a highway trip, you're getting around 28 miles to the gallon. I mean, I was getting 28 miles to the gallon pretty consistently, which isn't bad for as good as this car is on a racetrack. However, its biggest issue is that it shares its gas tank with every other Civic hatchback ever. And it's a 12-gallon tank, which only gives you about 250 to 280 miles of range before you have to find a gas station. If you're being very fuel efficient and staying below 75, 80 miles an hour, you can probably stretch it to 300 miles. But I'm used to my diesel BMWs that can give me 500 or 600 miles of range. Since we're complaining about the Type R, might as well continue. Another thing that I don't like at all is the protection systems that are there to help mitigate you crashing into other cars. I don't like the way it intrudes and gives you alarms when there's really no issues. Sometimes I'm pretty far away from a car, just in traffic, 10 miles an hour, and it just beeps at me and vibrates, and it's quite annoying. So I am going to turn that off as soon as possible. Another thing that really needs to be looked at is my Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto integration. When using Waze especially, it pixelates the entire screen and the whole thing lags out. It's really bad. And it's something that we're going to have to hopefully get a fix for in the future, because I looked at the forums and tons of people were having issues with this. I had to turn off Waze and go into Google Maps, which works fairly well, although every hour or so I'd have to reset the whole thing so it stops lagging out. So again, minor issue, but it needs to be fixed. Frankly, I was trying to figure out other things to complain about. Outside of having to visit gas stations a lot, this car is so much better than the previous generation, and honestly so good at road trips now. I don't find really many faults in it once you get over the fact that you'll be stopping a few more times than I really want to. Some people do say that the ride can be a bit too stiff for highway trips or even driving around town, but I have to disagree. This ride is very compliant in my opinion. Maybe I've been driving the Camaro ZL1 1LE far too long, but I found this car to be super comfortable on the ride all the way down to Florida. I mean, it was, again, 1,100 miles. And I asked my wife when we got there, hey, was it uncomfortable? Was it terrible? Was it nauseating? Was it a terrible ride? And she said, absolutely not. In fact, she was surprised at how good it was. And sometimes she says she felt that it was a more supple ride than the X5 sometimes over certain bumps. So there you have it, guys. I mean, in comfort mode, this thing is actually comfortable. Now, is it an all-out luxury car, or is it gonna really isolate you from the outside? It's not. And there's, again, road noise, etc. But this is a really competent track car that can do an 1,100-mile trip without breaking a sweat. This is something that I could never say about the FK8 Type R. I actually did a video on FK8 Type R and when I drove it from Pennsylvania to Boston and back, and I didn't like it as much as I like this car. This car is set up very nicely. The interior is way more comfortable, and it's just such a great car to be in for extended periods of time. And have I talked to you guys about the seats? The front seats are absolutely perfect. Back seats, they're okay, they do the job, but my goodness, I was never uncomfortable. I was also never low on power. I was never surprised at poor braking performance. It didn't really throw any surprises outside of the stupid crash mitigation beeping every once in a while. It never jolted me out of being in the zone of just eating up the miles. This car is surprisingly good at highway driving. So here we are, more than halfway through the journey. We're at 650 miles there. The only annoyances are, again, the Apple CarPlay doesn't work well with Waze. I didn't have my radar detector put into the car yet, so I wanted to use Waze So I had to use it on a separate phone, just a separate phone screen just to get that working. And the fact that I had to stop 4 times to stop for fuel, which is twice the amount of times that I've stopped in the past. When I drive the X5 or the 335D, I only have to stop once or twice in the trip instead of 4 times, which is fine, honestly. It's, outside of that, a very, very good road trip car. Another thing that helps is visibility out of this thing can't be better. I feel like we're back to Hondas of old, where you're basically in a fishbowl and you can see pretty much everywhere. Now, you do have thicker A pillars and B pillars, but it's a very, very good car for visibility. I never felt like I had crazy blind spots. The mirror, as you can see here, works extremely well, and it really covers all of your blind spots if you set them correctly. I'm gonna do a separate video on how to set your mirrors properly. And the gauges were perfectly fine. Honestly, I didn't enjoy that the gear number was taking the place of where I thought the speedometer should be, but I got used to that. And the rest of the dash and everything just kind of fell away like an old Honda used to do. It reminded me a little bit of the design of my 1990 Honda Civic wagon that I owned. It was actually my first car. And outside of that infotainment screen, honestly, I wouldn't change a thing from the dash. If I had a choice, I wish that infotainment screen kind of folded away if I didn't want to use it, but it would complicate things. Frankly, the car is effectively perfect. I would just add a larger gas tank, fix the Android Auto Apple CarPlay issues, and call it a day. It's done. It's effectively the Civic Type R perfected, in my opinion. I wanted to show you guys this because if you kept it under 80 or 75 miles an hour, the car did give you over 30 miles to the gallon. Further cementing this car is just one of the great all-around cars to own. As day turned to night, I really got to enjoy the ambient lighting that the car has. You see the little illumination you have all over the place. You have it in the red carpets, you have it on your doors, you have a little bit of red there. And I like those accents a lot. It adds a little bit of character in the cabin. I mean, it used to be that only really expensive or fancy cars would have something like that, but nowadays, a lowly Civic has effectively what you'd expect from a higher end luxury car. Now here I'm going to show you a solution that I had to come up with because I did find a factory defect, and you could get these in luxury cars too. Here you see my work phone using Waze because I could not get Waze to work properly in the built-in Apple CarPlay. I actually had to delete the app from Apple CarPlay so that it would stop malfunctioning. What it would do would make the whole screen purple, and then it would basically freeze, and you have to exit Apple CarPlay and re-enter it and reset it like every 5 minutes. With Google Maps in Apple CarPlay, you only have to do that maybe every hour or two, and it was fine. Maybe there's a memory leak, there's something going on in that screen that's just not working right. I don't know if I should be blaming Google or Apple or Honda, but in my experience, in the last 3 or 4 years, everything's effectively gotten worse. Technology's gotten worse. Google Maps, the best Google Maps was 5 years ago. They keep getting worse and worse with every update. Apple CarPlay was the best like 3 or 4 years ago. Effectively, everything's getting worse in my opinion, and this is just another iteration of that. I want to show you guys driving in the middle of the night. Here, it's very dark out. The car's lights do a fantastic job of lighting the road ahead. It has automatic high beams, which I thought was a little gimmicky at first, but again, I was proven wrong. It actually works fairly well, and it does turn on the high beams when there's no other vehicles around. Street signs sometimes confuse it, but it works fine most of the time. And yeah, it works very well at night. Here I am, very excited. This will be the last stop. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but I stop at Shells wherever I can, like the Shell 93. So as the odometer hits 1,000 miles and we come to the end of this long road trip, what are my final thoughts? Well, in one word, surprised. I was extremely surprised at how good this Civic Type R did on long road trips. It has me rethinking all of my future car purchases, my past car purchases, and frankly, if you've made it this far into the video, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I need any other car in my garage besides this and the Honda S2000. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying, but this car feels like it can do everything. Now, there will be a test of this car on the track. I want to see if it's going to overheat on me or not. That will be the ultimate test. If I can do a few minor modifications to make it not overheat, I think it could make it so that I only have a 2 or 3 car garage for myself. And that actually has me pretty excited. I'm ready to connect or reconnect with a car, and the Camaro is very good, the Corvette is very good, but I always feel at home when I'm back in a Honda, and this Honda just happens to be extremely good. I would say I think it does battle with the best Porsche 911s out there. Now, I don't think it's going to be as good as a GT3 or GT3 RS, God forbid, but it's a more well-rounded car than a regular 911S or GTS. It's got decent power, it's got great usability, 4 doors, it's got huge space in the back, great mileage if you drive it under 75 or 80 miles an hour, and even when you drive above that, it's 28 miles to the gallon. It's not bad at all. Very comfortable and nothing to complain about outside of the gas tank and maybe the infotainment system glitches. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Here it is. We finally got home and parked the car, and I couldn't resist but to take some more pictures. And this is the next day. I just wanted to show you guys how good it looks next to the S2000. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time. Peace.